Indian Territory, 1882. Two of the most wanted outlaws in America are hiding in a cabin near the Red River. They're armed, dangerous, and they've killed 3 lawmen who tried to take them in. Then a beggar appears at their door, ragged clothes, hungry, harmless. Their mother feeds him, lets him sleep in the back room. When morning comes, both brothers are in handcuffs. Because that beggar? He was Bass Reeves, and he just walked 28 miles in disguise to get them. This is Bass Reeves, born a slave in 1838. Escaped during the Civil War, and became the first Black Deputy US Marshal west of the Mississippi River. For 32 years he arrested over 3,000 criminals. Killed 14 outlaws who wouldn't surrender. Never got shot. Never quit. And he did it all in a time when most of America wouldn't even let a black man vote. Some say he was the real Lone Ranger. By the end of this story you'll understand why. Bass was born to enslaved parents in Crawford County, Arkansas. His owner was William Reeves, a state legislator. When Bass was 8, the family moved to Texas, taking Bass with them. He grew up as the property of the Reeves family. But unlike most enslaved people, Bass had a skill that would save his life. He was strong. 6'2" by age 16. And he could shoot. William's son, George Reeves, took Bass as his personal bodyguard and companion. That meant better food, better clothes, and learning to handle a gun. George was training a weapon he didn't realize would one day break free. Then came the Civil War. Texas joined the Confederacy. George Reeves went to fight for the South and took Bass with him. But somewhere around 1862, everything changed. There are 2 versions of this story. Version 1. Bass and George were playing cards one night. An argument erupted. And Bass, tired of taking orders, tired of being property, beat George Reeves within an inch of his life and ran. Bass Reeves escaped. And he knew exactly where to go, Indian Territory. The one place in America where a black fugitive could disappear. For the next 3 years he lived among the Cherokee, Creek, and Seminole tribes. He learned their languages, their tracking methods, how to survive off the land, how to disappear, and most importantly how to hunt men. 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation. Bass Reeves was finally legally free. He left Indian Territory and settled near Van Buren, Arkansas, buying land. He married Nellie Jenny, a woman from Texas. They started a family, eventually 10 children. Bass became a successful farmer and rancher. He raised horses, grew crops, lived peacefully. But he knew Indian Territory like no one else alive. And sometimes federal marshals would hire him as a guide. And that's when Judge Isaac Parker noticed him. May 1875. Judge Isaac C. Parker arrives at Fort Smith with a mission from President Grant: bring law to Indian Territory. Parker becomes known as the hanging judge. During his career, he'll sentence 160 people to death. He needs deputies who are fearless, smart, and expendable. Most men won't take the job. Indian Territory is where lawmen go to die. In Parker's first year, 65 of his marshals will be killed. But Parker has an idea. He needs someone who knows the territory, who speaks Cherokee, Creek, Seminole, Choctaw, Chickasaw, who can track anyone anywhere, and who outlaws won't expect. Bass Reeves walks into Parker's office. He's 37 years old. He can't read or write, but he can recite arrest warrants word for word after hearing them once. Parker pins a silver badge on his chest. Bass Reeves is now one of the first Black Deputy US Marshals west of the Mississippi, and he's about to become a legend. Bass Reeves didn't patrol like other lawmen. He was a ghost. He'd leave Fort Smith with a wagon full of supplies, a cook who doubled as a guard, and a pocket full of arrest warrants. He'd be gone for weeks, sometimes months. And he'd come back herding 10, 15, sometimes 20 outlaws all chained together. Oh. First, he was illiterate but brilliant. Marshals would read him the warrants. Bass would memorize every detail: names, crimes, descriptions, locations. Word for word. Second, he knew every trail, every hideout, every water source in 75,000 square miles. Outlaws couldn't hide from him. Third, he was ambidextrous. 2 guns, both hands, deadly accurate. He could shoot a gun out of a man's hand at 50 yards. But here's what made him truly unstoppable. Bass Reeves was a master of disguise. Bass would become whoever he needed to be. A beggar. A cowboy. A farmer with a broken wagon. An outlaw on the run. He'd walk into towns where wanted men lived, and they'd never suspect the man asking for food or help was the deadliest marshal alive. One time he dressed as a homeless drifter and walked 28 miles to a cabin where 2 brothers were hiding. He convinced their mother he was harmless. She fed him, let him sleep there. When those brothers woke up, they were in chains. Their mother followed Bass for 3 miles, cursing him the entire way. Another time, Bass dressed as a farmer whose wagon got stuck. 6 outlaws came out to help. When they got close, Bass pulled his guns. All 6 arrested without a shot. And then there's my favorite story. Bass heard 2 men were looking for him, planning to ambush and kill him. So Bass found them first. Disguised as an outlaw, he convinced them he was on their side, and that he knew where Bass Reeves was headed. He led them straight into a trap, his own posse. The looks on their faces when he revealed who he was. Bass's reputation grew. Outlaws started posting warnings on trees. Bass Reeves crosses this line, he dies. He had a dozen death threats posted specifically for him. He crossed every line anyway. Some of his arrests became legend. There was Bob Dozier, a murderer and thief who'd evaded capture for years. No one could find him. Bass tracked him for months through the Cherokee Nation and finally cornered him. Dozier drew his gun. Bad decision. Bass was faster. Then there was Jim Webb, a notorious killer. When Webb realized it was Bass Reeves coming for him, he tried to shoot first. Bass shot the gun out of his hand, then killed him when Webb kept fighting. And Belle Starr, the famous bandit queen. When she heard Bass had a warrant for her, she didn't run. She turned herself in at Fort Smith. She knew running from Bass Reeves was pointless. Over 32 years, Bass Reeves made over 3,000 arrests. 3,000 criminals. He killed 14 men in the line of duty, all in self-defense, all cleared by the courts. And here's the most insane part. He was never wounded. Not once. In 32 years of tracking the most dangerous men in America, through ambushes, shootouts, hand-to-hand fights, Bass Reeves never took a bullet. But Bass's greatest test wasn't a shootout or a chase. It was family. 1902. Bass's own son, Benjamin, murdered his wife in a fit of jealous rage. Benjamin was on the run. And the marshal who got the warrant was Bass Reeves. Imagine that moment. Your own child. A murderer. And you're the one who has to bring him in. Other marshals offered to take the case. Bass refused. He tracked Benjamin for 2 weeks. When he found him, there was no speech, no tears. Bass arrested his own son and brought him to justice. Benjamin was convicted, sentenced to life in Leavenworth. Bass attended the trial, watched his son get sentenced, then went back to work the next day. That's who Bass Reeves was. The law was the law, even when it broke his heart. 1907. After 32 years as a federal marshal, Indian Territory became Oklahoma, a state. Federal marshals lost jurisdiction. Bass was 68 years old. His eyesight was failing. His joints ached from decades in the saddle. Most men would retire to a rocking chair. Not Bass Reeves. He took a job as a police officer in Muskogee, Oklahoma, patrolling the streets, arresting drunks and thieves. The legendary marshal who'd brought in 3,000 outlaws, now walking a beat at 68. Why? Because it was all he knew. And because Bass Reeves believed in the law. January 12, 1910. Bass Reeves died of Bright's disease, kidney failure. He was 71 years old. His funeral was attended by hundreds, black and white, outlaws and lawmen, people whose lives he'd saved and people he'd arrested. So why isn't Bass Reeves a household name? Why do we know Wyatt Earp, Wild Bill Hickok, Buffalo Bill, but not the man who arrested more criminals than all of them combined? Because history is written by those in power. And in early 20th century America, black heroes didn't fit the narrative. And then something happened. In 1933, 23 years after Bass died, a radio show premiered, The Lone Ranger, a masked lawman, an expert marksman, riding a white horse named Silver, operating in Indian Territory. Sound familiar? The show's creators never admitted Bass Reeves was the inspiration, but historians have connected the dots. Did they steal Bass's story and give it to a white man? We'll never know for certain. But it's one hell of a coincidence. For decades, Bass Reeves existed only in dusty court records and fading memories. But in the 1990s, historians started digging. The evidence was overwhelming. Bass Reeves was real and he was extraordinary. In 2013, he was inducted into the Texas Trail of Fame. In 2011, a bronze statue was erected in Fort Smith. And in 2022, a feature film about his life went into production. Hollywood, the same industry that erased him, is finally telling his story. Better late than never, I suppose. But here's what matters. We're telling it now. Bass Reeves is being taught in schools. Books are being written. His story is reaching people. And that matters. Bass Reeves' story matters because it's a reminder that heroes come in all colors. That the Old West wasn't just white cowboys and outlaws, it was black marshals, Native American guides, Mexican vaqueros, Chinese railroad workers. Our history is richer and more complex than Hollywood ever showed us. But more than that, Bass's story is about what's possible when you refuse to accept the limits others put on you. Born a slave, escaped as a fugitive, became one of the greatest lawmen in American history. He operated in a country that saw him as less than human, and he still chose to serve justice. Not because America had been fair to him, it hadn't, but because justice matters. Because someone has to stand between the strong and the weak. And Bass Reeves decided it would be him. That's the real lesson here. Not that he was perfect, he wasn't. Not that the system was fair, it absolutely wasn't. But that one person determined to do right can change everything. Bass Reeves, former slave, Deputy US Marshal. Over 3,000 arrests. 14 shootouts survived. 32 years of service. 0 bullets taken. The real Lone Ranger. This story moved you, share it. Comment below, what forgotten hero from history do you want to hear about next? Because Bass Reeves isn't the only one they tried to erase. And we're going to tell every single one of their stories.